Lovely. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the May 16th meeting of the Williston-Richmond Rotary Club. Good morning. We have a couple of guests here with us today. First up, our speaker, Ben Kinnaman, who we'll be hearing from shortly. And then Mackenzie Fournier, Armand and Leslie's niece. Welcome. And then online, it looks like we have a guest, Ali Dieng. Welcome. Happy to have you joining us.
Thank you.
We got a busy agenda this morning, so we'll go straight into our Rotary Minute from June.
I wanted to share a brief story of how the Rotary really touches all the way from international to the very smallest of communities. I'm working on the new committee with the grants and donations. To figure out what should we focus on, what will be the best place to put our money, and how we actually research what's going on in our community. But this one takes place in the Southwest. I don't know if many of you traveled there, but I have, and have had the luck of speaking with some of the Navajo people on their reservation. So this story involves them. It also involves the Rotary members from Durango, Colorado, who are bringing solar lights to members of the Navajo reservation that is bigger than the state of West Virginia. It sprawls across Arizona, Utah, and New Mexico, far from paved roads and services, and this harsh land has been passed down generation to generation. According to a 2016 assessment, there are about 16,000 Navajo homes that have no access to electricity. The story that I read was about a Navajo grandfather, a silversmith, and a revivalist preacher all in one, named Jerry Domingo, whose dwelling is near Nagazi, New Mexico. It consists of a one-room house smaller than a single-car garage. With no reliable power lighting, he realized he was going to have to quit making jewelry because he just couldn't see that well anymore. Although there are electric lines traversing their vast reservation, it would cost more than $30,000 to reach each remote home and connect it to the power grid. Jerry sells his jewelry, each piece taking about 4 days to complete, when he travels all over the reservation. It was through a pastor at a local church that he learned about a program by a Rotary Club in Durango, Colorado, that brings solar-powered lighting to remote homes. Solar lighting is a simple thing that consists of mounting a small panel about the size of a baking sheet, recharged on a roof with a pole. A wire runs from the panel into the house, where up to 3 rechargeable lights hang from the ceiling hooks. To turn on these lights, all you do is touch a button. Jerry contacted the Durango Rotary chapter. They were interested in one of their members, Joe Williams, who grew up not far from Jerry's home, recalled riding the school bus as one of only a few white kids in a whole bus filled with Navajo children. That daily ride to school was 48 miles each way. Joe, a Rotarian since 1996, had recently returned from Nepal, one of his many international Rotary projects, installing solar-powered lighting there. In addition, he also had a business that employed many Navajo over the years. Upon returning from Nepal, a new Rotary member who had also been on the trip, Nancy Lauro, a civil engineer, brought up a proactive question to the group. Why not serve the developing nation's conditions faced by the Navajo, who were just a few hours drive away? And by the way, Nancy joined Rotary after her 2 daughters participated in the Rotary Club's youth exchange program. The Rotary planned a project that would bring solar-powered lights to at-risk populations on the reservation, including the elderly over 70. I'm not sure about that. Anyway, and private members. And yes, Joe Williams became the project leader. He started out as a child living out there where there were no lights. I traveled all over the world with the Rotary. And still, there were no lights in that area. So that he had a very indomitable wellspring of energy, despite the fact that he was having a hard time walking because he has Parkinson's. But last year alone, he coordinated 90 Rotary service trips to the Navajo Nation at his own expense. One weekend in November, a group of Rotarians and their international exchange students, part of the Mountains and Plains Rotary Youth Exchange, traveled from their homes to southern Colorado to the reservation. The Durango Daybreak chapter has now provided over 40 homes with solar power, and the cost per home is $300. Joe Williams and his Rotary chapter are working with the Navajo Nation to pursue grant funding for further solar units and also to train crews of young Navajo tribal members as installation and repair technicians. He has had his own, Barry, the Navajo person, has had his own personal challenges too. A few years ago, he lost his wife and two of his older kids in a car accident. So life had become very isolated for him. Now with power, although he lives by himself, his remaining children, grandchildren, friends, and neighbors can cycle in and out at all hours of the day. And now, even when it gets dark, he's able to continue creating his jewelry. As an important bonus, this powerful project also provides time for the tribal elders to practice and pass on the Navajo language and long-held traditions, which is really the bedrock of their community. So just thinking of this one project that has touched from the very basic one person all the way to international, I was thinking how it had touched areas in the Rotary programs of Rotary View, cross-cultural experiences, life-changing projects, career training, isolation of elderly, joint grant applications, and the expansion of Rotary membership. So when we start to think about what we're doing here and just think of what a global impact it has, I think that's my motivation for Rotary Minute.
Yeah, thank you, Jude. And now Howard, there you go. Howard will provide our second inspiration.
Yes, it's supposed to be an inspiration, right? So I was trying to think of something inspiring to say to this group, and I was having a hard time with it. I was looking online, there were some Rotary sites, Rotary Club runner sites, and some of them have quotes in them, and I was looking for a good quote, and I was also thinking about the traveling that I've just done and trying to draw some kind of inspiration from that. So I pulled a quote and kind of drew it into the travel part of it. So the quote is from Paul Harris from 1912, Rotary founder. And I think it's a pretty optimistic quote. Man has affinity for his fellow man, regardless of race, creed, or class. And the greater the variety, the more the zest. All friendliness needs is a sporting chance. It will take care of itself in any company. So that's the quote. And I kind of was trying to apply it to some of the things I did while I was traveling. And when I travel, I have this idea in my head a lot of times, as I think a lot of Rotarians do, I call it micro diplomacy. It's just kind of like, we all have an opportunity when we go different places, whether it's in our daily lives or whether it's when you travel somewhere, to make a connection with somebody. And so when I was traveling, it's fun to talk to different people. And so in the course of things, I did talk to a few people and I found some of the things inspiring. I was skiing in France. We were talking to people on the chairlifts or at the bar afterwards, and there were people from all over the world. There were people from Norway. There was a guy from Norway who was really cool. And we're talking about how things are in Norway and comparing it to the US. And it was a real political conversation. And it was okay to have a political conversation.
It's gonna push you out of the chairlift.
And I mean, people say we shouldn't talk politics or religion. And it's like, we have to talk politics and religion and stuff to get to the core of things. There was a conversation with a 5-year-old little girl who we brought up on the lift. And she was just a little sprite. And that was cool. That was fun. Taxi drivers and tour guides. I have a sister who's kind of a little fancy dancy, if you will. And, she treats people at a restaurant or in a cab more like a servant, if you will. I treat them like a comrade. And it's like, if you start talking to a taxi driver, you get some interesting conversations. So anyway, I had a really nice conversation with a taxi driver. That was kind of fun. Learned some things about the city, learned some things about them and their kids and how hard this woman is trying in a society that doesn't treat them. And so got something out of that. There was a cranky old man in an eatery who was waiting on us. Well, we won him over after a bit. 3 days running in, it's like, okay, we got you, you get us, we get you. And kind of a coup de grace. I was in there was some street performers going on in a square. And there were these two little older ladies sitting next to to us. And, we were kind of dancing in our seats and having a good time and talking. And these ladies couldn't really speak English. We couldn't really speak Portuguese, but we were communicating nonetheless. And after the street performers were done, we're getting ready to leave. And these two older ladies, they gave us the double peck on the cheek and hugs, and it was just like, so there's all these little connections that happened in the course of things. And that's the inspiration, is finding the opportunities for these kinds of interconnections in our daily lives, whether you're traveling or at home. But there you go.
Thank you, Howard. All right, we have a few announcements and then we'll get to the main event. First off, I'm about to pass around this folder. And this is for our Williston Schools Thank You project. And I put in a note about it in the email I sent yesterday. So some of you have probably seen that. If not, you can look back. But a few years ago, we did this as well, where we each took a number of names and wrote thank you cards to all the staff at the Allen schools. And this seemed like another opportune time to do that. So I've got the names. These are all the Williston Central School names in increments of 5. So you can take, if you're willing to write some, you can take, 1, 2, 3, however many of these chunks of 5 names you're willing to take on. It's as simple, you can just write from your heart about how you'd want to thank them for their contribution. I think last time we made a point of on behalf of the Rotary, of the Williston-Richmond Rotary Club, we kind of signed that way. I do have some kind of extra thank you cards and blank notes over there if anybody needs some. And you can use whatever kind of blank note cards or thank you cards that you might like. And we can purchase some if that would be helpful to folks too. We have a couple weeks to accomplish this. I'm hoping to collect them from everybody on June 6th. On June 7th, we're going to have a little gathering at Williston Place. You may recall that some of us met with some of the residents there last fall, and we've been looking for a way to reconnect with them. And this seemed like a really good project for them to pitch in on. There was interest there. So we're gonna spend an hour or so with them on that Friday afternoon, and we'll be able to complete the thank you notes with their help. So inside the folder is just a sign up if you're willing to join on that Friday. If you need to check your calendars, there'll still be a chance to join. I just want to get a sense of about how many people might be able to do that with us. So I'm going to pass this around. And I'm not having you write down who you took. I'm just going to go on the the honor system. And Phil is holding up some beautiful Rotary thank you notes if anybody wants to use those. So awesome. Thank you, Phil. I'm going to start on this end with this. And I also have, on behalf of soon-to-be President Elizabeth, the speaker chair sign-up sheet. So if you want to claim a month, or you could actually share a month with another person if you would like to do it that way, you can sign up on that here. And I'm gonna start over here. There, thank you. So you're interested in you can pass it this way. Thank you. And then Barb, there you are. Barb has a quick announcement, and then Cherry.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for helping out or hoping to help out on Saturday. I have the sign up list that everybody had signed up for. I'm passing it around. Please put a check if you can still do what you signed up to do. We need at least one or two more people to help with parking. Well, I hope also help bring people in. Helen said that set up the group, there was a whole bunch of people who signed up to set up and help us, but she'd like everyone there at 11:15 on Saturday morning because she has to do something in the afternoon and she has to be there to show us what we have to do. So I'm passing this around. As I said, there's the sign up sheet. Not the sign up sheet. There's a check to put that you will be able to come. Somebody else, some people can sign up for helping out with parking, I hope, besides online. And what you can bring for terms of little snacks that we can do during intermission. So I appreciate it. Where would we like to start since
Wherever you'd like. Started right here.
Okay, there we go. Thank you very, very much. Also, if you have boxes, please bring that. That will help sell.
I have lots of boxes.
Okay, great.
I'll just jump right in. So in July, and I don't know the specific date off the top of my head, at Isham Farms, there's going to be a storytelling event. We're going to, Helen invited us, since we did the Story Slam, to be a part of it. So hopefully we can get some help with parking and that, but also the main thing I wanted to say is, we have the opportunity to do a silent auction. I will send an email out, just to find out if anybody is interested or has ideas on what we might, if we should do it. And I would say unless we can get maybe like 15 items, to be able to auction, it wouldn't really be worth it. So I will generate an email.
I would like to say, when we've done silent auctions in the past, the things that go best are restaurants, excuse me, any tickets for plays and productions and things like that. And when we did it during ski season, obviously things dealing with skiing.
Sure, yeah. So if people have connections and you feel like you hopefully get something, we'll get an email going, because I know we're tight on time.
Thank you, Sherry. Great.
Thanks, Sherry.
And then Marty, I think you had a quick.
Yeah, just real briefly, in relation to the 5K race, I want to show all of you my back here. There was a clear plastic box, which may be this wide and, that deep, that high. And it had a bunch of miscellaneous stuff related to the race, things like legal pads and it had clipboards and metal bibs. And it seems to have gone missing. I'm just wondering if anyone remembers anything about that. Previously, we'd left it in the shack. And I assumed it was there, but when I went over there the other day, it wasn't. It's nothing, I mean, it's not expensive stuff or anything like that, but yeah. Anyway, I don't hear anybody. So.
Otherwise, we're gonna go over to Staples and get some new.
All right, any other timely announcements?
I have one, but I'll wait till afterwards.
Okay, all right. Well, Armand, I welcome you to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Susan. This has been an exciting morning. going down my driveway, I chased a black bear down the driveway.
All right.
My neighbor's back with a new knee. My granddaughter's here after spending the winter traveling the country down the East Coast and across the southern part to all the way to California and back. Talk about an inspiration to be 25 years old and be able to do it. And the last highlight of this morning for me is to have Ben here. Ben Kinnaman founded a Greensea back in 2006 in Richmond. Over the past 18 years, Greensea has grown to one of the world's leading ocean technology, pioneering the use of robotics with common software, autonomy, and AI to solve some of the greatest problems facing the oceans. Though now a company that operates worldwide with additional offices in Plymouth, Mass, San Diego, California, Rockledge, Florida, and representation in the Middle East, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Japan, and Australia. Greensea keeps its headquarters on the corner of the market building in Richmond, the corner market building. Ben and his wife Joanna live in Bolton. Their sons attend Camel's Hump Middle School. And it's a pleasure to welcome Ben in.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Very happy to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. As Armand said, Greensea is one of the world's largest technology providers in the world of ocean robotics. We are not yet in every home in America. Not everybody has the need for what we do, but we are one of the world's largest. I founded the company in 2006. We continue growing and we continue to keep our headquarters right in the old corner market building in Richmond, which I'm sure very few of you even realized. So what I would like to do today is I would like to share with you two things that inspire me and two of the missions of our company that I find worth getting out of bed for every morning. Before I do that, though, I'd like to share a personal story of my background with Rotary Club. So I grew up on the coast of North Carolina. Grew up in a tiny little coastal town in North Carolina. And it was my mom, my sister, and me. And we had no money growing up. I never remember my mom being able to put any more than just a buck or two of gas in the car. And she worked multiple jobs when I was a kid. And so I think like most kids growing up in that kind of situation, I started work early. And I learned two things about myself when I was growing up. The first is that I'm a worker. I've been blessed with a work ethic, and that served me well. And to this day, there are very few problems that I can outsmart, but I can always outwork them. So the first thing I learned about myself is I was a worker. The second thing I learned about myself is that I didn't get seasick. And I started work early, offshore, fishing boats, diving, all kinds of things related to the ocean. And we were in a little coastal town, and it was easy to find work doing that. So those two factors of being a worker, not getting seasick, pretty well contributed to my career track and what I do today. So I was coming into the latter part of my high school career. I was a senior in high school, and I had no interest in going to college. I had started working early. In my mind, I was quite well off. I could put gas in my car, something my mom couldn't do. And I figured that was just fine. So I had no interest in going to college. My mom, however, had great interest in me going to college. So we struck a deal. And the deal was, if I got into this one college that she wanted me to go to, I would go to college. And if I didn't, my life was. I thought this was a sure thing because I was a terrible student. And I could not for the life of me imagine a college accepting me that wasn't associated with the penal system. So So I took this little thing with my mom, and to this day, I think she must have had a hand on a lever somewhere because I got into this college. And I remember standing in the house with my mom, looking at this acceptance letter. And we were like, okay, how are we gonna afford this? It would be like being given a seat for a trip to the moon, but you had to pay for it. Okay, you can't afford this. So, we were pretty simple people. Economics were very, very simple. You either had the money to pay for school or you didn't. You either had money to pay for things or you didn't. That's it. There wasn't debt. There wasn't fancy financing. It was just very, very simple. So got accepted to college. Absolutely no conceivable way to make that happen. It's a very expensive private school. Now, I don't remember the details, but I had some relationship with the local Rotary Club. And I remember going to breakfast at the local Rotary Club when I was in high school. And not a lot, but a few times. And I have no idea why I did that. It was pretty off-brand for me in high school to do something like that. But I remember it. And that Rotary Club gave me a scholarship to college. A little tiny scholarship. I mean, we're not talking about like Ed McMahon Publishers Clearinghouse. A little tiny scholarship. But I'd never really heard of such a thing. And I remember again standing in the house with my mom looking at this scholarship thinking, wow, maybe the impossible is possible. Maybe there's more of this around. So we started hustling. And that little Rotary scholarship created the hope that we could stitch this thing together. So I did go to college. I went to this very expensive private school. I had to work a lot through college, but when I left college, I only had $5,000 in debt after 4 years that I paid off immediately when I walked out of that place. And to this day, I credit the Rotary Club for making that possible. I do not think I would be where I am today. I don't think I would have had the career I've had. And I know that my kids would not have the opportunities they have today if the Rotary Club didn't turn the tides in my favor. So after 30 some years, thank you. A little bit overdue, perhaps, but thank you. And I sincerely hope you're still sponsoring kids going to college, even in that tiny way. Because, a little $500 scholarship, $1,000 scholarship, whatever, it may not seem like much. But for kids that don't know how things work, man, it just takes a little bit of momentum to get off center to just totally change the tides. So thank you. So I do want to talk about my company and I want to talk about a couple things that inspire us, but I'm going to fill the gap in from college to what I do today. So I graduated from college. I graduated from this college and I left with a degree in physics and a focus in computational physics. And I went offshore as a salvage diver. And I started my career off salvage diving. And I spent the first part of my career treasure hunting. And I focused on Spanish galleons and Spanish shipwrecks. I traveled around the world. I looked for lost treasure galleons and Spanish fleets and salvage treasure. And through that process, I started becoming more interested in going really deep and going really, really deep ocean. The bottom of the ocean fascinates me. Even as a kid, it's just fascinating. As a kid, I used to go down onto the bottom of the ocean, like the sound right out of my grandmother's house. I would go down and I would just take some really rudimentary breathing stuff. And I would take a heavy weight and I would just lay it on my chest, just on the bottom. I just love the bottom of the ocean. So I left diving and I moved into very, very deep ocean salvage. And me and a handful of guys specialized in 10,000, 20,000 foot salvages. And because of that little specialty, we worked all over the world. Every corner of the ocean, every corner of the world, every ocean imaginable. If something was lost that deep, we were going to go find it. And so during that period of time, started building these machines to do that work for us, because you can't dive that deep. And I did that for years, traveling 300 days, gone from home 300 days a year for years. And someone with that type of specialty, it doesn't take long for the Defense Department to take notice. So I migrated from deep ocean salvage into defense work. And I started building very specialized robotics for the Defense Department, primarily robots that came out of fast attack nuclear submarines, 688 class submarines. And so I was still working offshore. I was still traveling a lot. I was still underwater, on the water, everywhere else. And I was dating this little girl at the time. And she started hinting around that she had a hard time seeing like a life together if I was gone 300 days a year. So I came in from offshore, and to make that transition, I went to graduate school. And as Armand said, I'm now married to that little girl. We live in Bolton. We have 2 kids together. And so anyway, I made the transition into engineering. I was working in the Beltway of DC, still doing Department of Defense stuff, building robots for deep ocean stuff. And kind of along the way, I came up with this software concept and for really revolutionizing ocean robotics using high levels of control and autonomy, precision navigation, artificial intelligence, machine learning. This is kind of back in the early days before, ChatGPT, and you hear about this stuff on CNN. So I started developing the software, and I pitched it to the company I was working for at the time in Washington, and they passed on it. So I came home one night and I told my wife, Joanna, I said, hey, listen, I worked it out with the company, and we can move to Vermont anytime you want to. We've been coming up here skiing and kind of holidaying, and it would be a nice place to live. Give it a little 5-year experiment, She said, wow, that's amazing. How'd you do this? How'd you work this out? So I just quit. Okay, what are we gonna do in Vermont? I said, I'm gonna start a company building ocean robotics. She said, in Vermont. In Vermont. So we moved to Richmond. Well, we moved to Bolton. We put the company in Richmond. We'd never been here before. We had always been kind of the Mad River Valley area to ski in the summer and down in the Killington area, but I needed an airport. So we're like, yeah, it's kind of close. Literally put our finger on the map. So let's go there. So we moved here. We moved to Bolton, put the company in Richmond. I put the company on a 10-year development path to begin with. So for 10 years, from 2006, 2016, we just developed this little software idea that I had. We began commercializing in 2017. Over the last several years, we've done a lot with the company. We've grown the company primarily as the world's leading supplier of software for autonomous underwater vehicles. Specializing in a few different things. 35 manufacturers in the world ran our software. We've provided the brain for the vast majority of robots used in and on the ocean for years. During that course of time, I started another couple companies building different types of robots, really focused on some niche areas in the market, needs that I saw the world had, market opportunities I saw for the company. So I started these 2 other companies, and last year I literally woke up one morning and felt, my God, I have truly done nothing in this world. I have created companies. I have created money. I have created job opportunities. But I haven't made the world a better place at all. No way, no conceivable way could I convince myself I've made the world any better for my children. So last year I decided to merge all 3 companies together, divest of about 40% of our business, which I felt was low impact. In no way was it making the world a better place. It's just making money. Called our board one morning and said, hey, listen, I got this idea. So we've just turned profitable. We're making good money. We've got these other 2 companies. And so what we're going to do is we're going to divest 40% of our business, the 40% that makes a lot of money. We're gonna divest of that. We're gonna merge all the companies together. We're gonna focus on just a couple things that are gonna make the world a better place. My board was like, okay, let's do it. So today, Greensea focuses on two high impact missions that I'm super proud about. I'm gonna share those now. The first is mine countermeasures and explosive ordnance disposal. So this is a defense segment. The concept is the ocean is full of mines. Nobody realizes this because if everybody realized how many mines there were in the ocean, you'd never go in the ocean, it'd be a catastrophe. And the reason we don't talk about it is because there's no really good solution. But mine warfare is the most fatal, indiscriminate, and spineless form of warfare that I can truly conceive of. Because what we do is we put mines in the ocean to kill and sink enemy combatants, but it rarely works. If anybody's ever lost anything in the ocean or in Lake Champlain or tubing on the Winooski River, you know, as soon as it slips below the surface, it's gone forever. Your sunglasses pop off in the Winooski, they're gone forever. You're not finding them. You lose a flip-flop, you lose a ring, a bracelet, whatever else playing in the surf, it's gone forever. You're never finding it. The same is true with mines. We put mines in the ocean by the tens of thousands to sink enemy combatants. They don't, but they're gone. They're lost. They're down there somewhere, but they do kill. They kill civilians. They kill fishing fleets. They kill merchant seamen. They kill cruise passengers. And they wash up on the beach and they kill people playing in the sea. So the way that we have traditionally, we as a society, have traditionally gone about managing this threat is we've developed some technology that allows us to search the ocean and identify things that could be mines. But this is a pretty loose discrimination. It can tell the difference between something that size of this podium versus something the size of a coral reef. You know, say, hey, you should look at this podium. Maybe it's a mine. But then the way that we go in and we investigate that threat and neutralize that threat and render it safe is we put a 19-year-old E4 in scuba gear and have him swim around and locate this thing. It's in black water because nobody mines the Turks and Caicos. People mine areas that you can't see, harbors, ports, riverbeds. So he's swimming around in dark water and he finds this thing and he feels it up and he comes back and he tells his superior, I think it's a mine. The superior hands him a block of C4 and says, go back and blow this thing up. So this little 19-year-old E4 is swimming back with this block of C4, attaches it to the mine, comes back, climbs up on his little rubber boat anchored above the mine, they blow it up. Now, there is some risk involved in this scenario, but it's also not scalable. We deploy about 25,000 sea mines a year in the world's oceans, and they're still down there. They don't expire. They don't have a shelf life. Their shelf life is when the outer casing corrodes and the insides contact seawater and then they explode. So they don't just render inert. They're still down there. So that process that we've used is not scalable. It's risky, puts young men and women harm's way. So the US Navy launched a concept back in like 2015, 2017, somewhere around in there, called Get the Man Out of the Minefield. The concept is using robots to do what that E4 and scuba gear could do. So using robots that could scan the ocean, identify things that might be mines, go out and classify them, neutralize them, render them safe without putting humans in harm's way. So Greensea took up that charge wholeheartedly. Today, we're the world's leading supplier of autonomy and artificial intelligence and robots to render mines safe. Find mines, classify them, render them safe without putting humans in harm's way. We supply the US Navy, US Marine Corps, 16 countries around the world with this type of technology. And I'm super proud of this because today, using our technology that is built right here in Richmond, Vermont, we can field robots that can search the world's oceans in mass and at a scale never conceived of back in the days of using humans to do this. Locate mines, dispose of them safely, render them safe, and clear the ocean of these threats. All the while operating them and supervising them from anywhere in the world. We developed some really cool technology. One is the autonomy, and two is the classification, the perception. We use different sensors on robots to be able to see these mines and classify them and determine the make, the model, the country of origin, everything else. Report this back to the operators and blow them up. We also developed this little bit of technology that enables a human anywhere from our office in Richmond to communicate with these autonomous underwater vehicles anywhere in the world, from the seafloor to over the horizon, through multiple different links of multiple different nodes of protocol and communication. So it enables this amazing scalability of this type of work. And so I'm passionate about this work that we do. A couple years ago, I started a company to develop a very specialized robot that enables this technology to work in the surf zone environment. Typically, ocean robots work in very, very deep ocean because it's easy. Working in the surf is super difficult, and there was no market. There was no market solution to do this type of work in the surf zone. So I started a company a few years ago. We developed this very big seafloor crawling robot, totally autonomous. Today, Greensea provides that to, we're the only market provider in the world of this. So we have 100% market share. We provide all of the world's navies and militaries with this type of robot solution to rid the world's surf zone of mines and threats. So I'm very proud of this mission. The second thing that our company does, I'm very proud of, is we take all of this technology that we developed for the Defense Department, the autonomy, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning, the over-the-horizon communications, all of it. We use it for a greater good. And what we do is we keep ships clean. The barnacles that grow on the bottom of ships is called biofouling. So you put anything in the ocean, anything in Lake Champlain, and no matter what it's coated with, in just a short amount of time, it starts growing stuff. It starts with a slime layer, turns into grass in the ocean, it turns into barnacles, Lake Champlain turns into zebra mussels. But that stuff growing on the bottom of a ship causes drag on the ship moving through the ocean. That drag requires excess fuel to propel the ship through the ocean. That excess fuel contributes to excess carbon emissions. Today, the world's maritime transportation fleet, predominantly the fleet above 300 metric tons, contributes about 7% of the world's carbon load. It is estimated about half of that carbon load is due to biofouling. So what Greensea did is we took all of this technology that we've developed for the Defense Department, and we created these little tiny robots that could work without human operation anywhere in the world on any vessel to just constantly keep the ships clean. They don't clean ships, they just keep them clean. And this actual concept is as novel as brushing our teeth, right? I mean, you brush your teeth every day so that they don't become awful and you don't have to do terrible things to them, you know, once a year. We applied that same concept to keeping ships clean. Traditional way we clean ships is we just let them foul. They use a lot of fuel, very expensive to operate, pollute the world's oceans and air, and then we clean them occasionally when they get really foul. So we developed these little tiny robots that can live on board the ship. When the ship comes to a rest, like for passenger debarkation or cargo offload or sitting at a mooring or whatever, the robots climb overboard and just scrub the ship up, keep the ship clean. So this is called ship grooming. And today, Greensea is the world's largest provider of proactive in-water cleaning solutions. We're actually the world's only provider. And this was a technology that we started developing in 2018. It's taken us a lot of years to get right. We started scaling it at the end of last year. We are very active in the cruise ship fleets. We're also scaling out over multiple areas of defense, multiple countries, commercial shipping and transportation. And to date, we're averaging about 15% fossil fuel reduction on all the ships that we service. We're providing our customers about 48% return on investment for our service. Ship owners, it's a monthly subscription. What they're subscribing to is a cleaner ship. It's a flat monthly fee. They get a robot. The robots do their thing. We supervise them from our office in Richmond or our office down in Plymouth, Massachusetts. We deploy them on ships all around the world. And we are saving, last year, over just a few months, we saved about 50,000 metric tons of carbon out of the atmosphere. This year, we're on track to triple that. This is amazing. Reducing the carbon emissions from these ships that we're servicing by about 50%. I'm really passionate about that work. And that's doing good work. And a year ago, almost to the day, a year ago, I woke up and I thought, my God, I've done nothing to make this world a better place. I refactored everything that we've created and done over the last 18 years. And so here, centered in Richmond, I'm super happy to say, I think we are making the world a better place. We're doing pretty good work. So thanks. Happy to take any questions, but I appreciate the opportunity.
I have 1,000 questions and no time to ask. But for the robots that do seek out the mines at great depth, I assume, how can you communicate with those robots if they're so far under the sea? I would assume you use satellite power for communication, but how does that work?
A bunch of different ways, actually. So the key is to not have to communicate. And so use the metaphor all the time. So I've got two young boys. I've got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old. And I have been trying to get them to be useful humans around our house since they were born. And so I think about like raking the yard. You know, when they were like 5 years old, I had to tell them everything to do. You know, I mean, my God, we're gonna rake the yard. So you need to go to the garage. The garage is where we keep the cars. You got to open the door. You got to get the rake. It looks like this. Lots of words, lots of communication, just thousands of questions and status just to get the most basic thing done. Now I can say, son, rake the yard. You'll do it. Robots are the same way. So today I can use just a couple words to get a big job done. But back when they were younger, I had to use a whole lot of words to get the most basic thing done. In robots, we limit the communication requirements by making them super smart. So the first way that we communicate is to try not to communicate. But some supervision is necessary. So we use, most of the time in deep ocean stuff, we use acoustic communications. And so we send sound through the water column. And we use a very basic, almost like Morse code. I mean, very basic tones going through the water to communicate very high level concepts that the robot can understand. And then that bounces through usually a comms node on the surface. It could be deployed on a ship, could be deployed in a buoy or something. Then it bounces through some sort of atmospheric network, cell, radio, SATCOM, Inmarsat, whatever, and then lands into somebody's laptop somewhere. So, and then on the ships, on our ship robots, that's kind of a little bit easier story because they're super close to us. So that was a little bit easier.
Can you talk a little bit about what your staff does and?
Yeah. So we've got about 90 staff. And we've got 4 offices. We have about 35 people here in Richmond. And our staff has changed quite a bit over the trajectory of the company, certainly. When we started the company, we were 100% R&D. We were just focused on developing this software platform called OpenSync. As the company has matured through our years of commercialization, our R&D focus has downshifted towards more product development. Today, with our very sharp focus in mine countermeasures and ship performance, we are very product focused. So over the last year or so, the requirements of our staff has shifted a lot more from just core technology development to product support and product fielding, product development. So we still maintain the majority of our staff here in Richmond is software. We have some executive staff in Richmond, some product manager kind of positions in Richmond. And in our Plymouth office, it is mostly production and the more core engineering roles, electrical, mechanical, that kind of thing, product management, product support. San Diego, it is almost all applications engineering. It works those guys work very directly with the government, just a lot of hand holding. And in Florida is our kind of the center, the hub of our ship performance. So we've got a lot of knuckle draggers in Florida, you know, I could say that because I am one. We got a lot of guys that just tote robots around and put them in the water. And we also have our biofouling research in Florida. So we have a big in-water facility where we grow barnacles, basically, and we figure out clever ways to stop barnacles from growing. And we test coatings from all the major manufacturers on ship coatings. So we've kind of got some scientists on that. But predominantly over the last few years, we've shifted from, I think, characteristically an egg-headed sort of R&D staff to a little bit more pragmatic product-focused staff.
Thank you.
Question over here.
Yes.
Have you been asked to be coach of the robotics team?
Yes. Yes, I have. And we have participated in and sponsored various robotics teams over the years. I find myself now, I used this analogy with Charlie earlier. I can't slice my pie any better. I'm very active in the company, and I've got a 12-year-old and a 14-year-old son that I really value my time with, the time with my wife. And I just don't think I could slice my pie any better.
But you've been asked.
I have been. And we've got a couple folks at the office who participated in various robotics teams. And one of our engineers in San Diego is the head coach for the first robotics team in San Diego. But at this moment, I've had to respectfully decline invitations.
Get on.
Yeah, I need a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if my kids will go into robotics, actually. I don't know. We'll see. So I never thought I would. My God. Yes, ma'am.
How big are these robots that you're using? I mean, they're climbing off of ships. I can't imagine how big the thing must be.
Yeah, so the ship robots are tiny, actually. And then because the key to the economics behind the ship robot is you can't have a crane. Because as soon as you involve a crane, but as soon as something on board a ship becomes heavier than two people can lift, you get into all kinds of OSHA requirements that get super expensive, super fast. So the key to the economics is to make it so that a single human can pick it up and move it. So the ship robots are quite small. They're about the size of the top of this lectern, actually.
They're like Roombas, aren't they?
Yeah, kind of, except they're way smarter than robots. Way smarter than robots. Because the thing about cleaning a ship in this kind of manner is that if you miss a spot, the spot will grow barnacles. And as soon as it grows barnacles, the only way to remove the barnacles is a pretty invasive cleaning procedure that actually releases the toxins in the hull coating. So if we don't have to remove a barnacle, we don't ablate the hull coating and we don't release toxins to the seawater. So this is actually a completely non-toxic way to reduce carbon emissions in shipping by about 25 to 50%. And so the key is we can't miss a spot. So these little dudes gotta be super smart, not like your Roomba, it's just kind of giving it the old college try.
Rescue you because this group will keep you here all day.
Oh, yeah, sure, I could stand here all day too.
One more task for you, if you would draw a ticket and read the last three numbers.
084.
Oh, very good.
Thank you very much. Ben.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. And thanks for you being here. The club will make a donation to the, in your name, to the Williston, mentoring program.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And I would, as speaker chair, I would like to make a donation in your name to the Richmond Free Library.
Oh,
Thank
that's
you for your
wonderful.
time.
Yeah, and I would appreciate it if it was just done in Greensea.
Okay,
Doesn't have to be me.
okay.
Ali Jeng online was wondering if I can ask him a question or it's over. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And I wanted to make the correlation between your work and climate change. And was just wondering if your robots are equipped with sensors and algorithm to allow them to calculate how much land is being lost because of the increase of the oceans now due to climate change. That's one question. And the second question is about the STEM access to basically your staff. Are they diverse? And do you have programs helping people from different socioeconomic and cultural background to access this work that you do that is so important? Thank you.
Yeah, so the first question is, we've developed a cloud platform. So our ship cleaning robot is called Everclean. We have a cloud platform called Everclean IQ. Everclean IQ is a software platform that plugs into the propulsion plant on board ships. And it enables us to create a closed loop evaluation that ties the work that our robots do to the performance increase and efficiency of the ship, largely to understand fuel savings and carbon reduction. We stop there. We stop there. It would be novel to extrapolate that into larger global climate change concepts. But we provide the data that we produce to others to do that through an API. But we personally stop at that point. In terms of your other question, we've always been very active in STEM outreach. I shared my background, and I would like to think when I was a kid, if I had any idea that this type of profession existed, I would have taken a little bit more of a direct line into a STEM kind of background. When I was in high school, I actually dropped out of all math and science curriculum completely in high school. So I was fortunate enough to have a professor in college who just absolutely, totally changed my direction and took an art major to a computational physics major. So we are active in STEM outreach, especially in the middle school ages. I think that especially in some more of our rural communities, letting kids know what type of careers exist if they tuck into math and science can be a complete game changer for these kids. So we do outreach to that level. In terms of making our products and services available to other socioeconomic classes and groups, that's a little bit, I think it's a little bit challenging because I think really just how our products are focused. So in our defense segments, we focus on mine countermeasures and explosive ordnance disposal. Now, we do work with various groups around the world for UXO mediation. So taking these same concepts and searching areas of the ocean that are particularly inhabited by underprivileged groups. There are a number of beaches and areas that come to mind. So we are involved in various efforts to extend this technology into those types of regions. In terms of our ship performance, currently our market is, and our product is really designed for vessels greater than 300 tons. There's not a lot of diversity in SCS when you're looking at ships greater than 300 tons, I guess. So I hope that answered your question.
Oh, yes, bien sûr. Thank you so much. This is great information.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ally, thank you for your question, and we're looking forward to your presentation to the club coming up shortly.
Sounds good. Next week. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
All right, Marty, I'm turning it over to you.
Right.